Kelly Motorsports here with a video of a Q-Link 700, same also known as Hisun, Benchy, Big Muddy, and several other brands. It is a clone of a Yamaha Rhino 660. Quite a few parts from the Rhino line do fit onto this model. What we're actually doing with this unit here is it's having an issue with clutching. The unit, when put into any gear, particularly high range, is the worst with the gearing, and it is high revving and slow moving, meaning the clutch inside the engine more than likely is slipping due to worn out clutch shoes. So we're going to do a quick video here, disassembly. So far we've taken out both seats and the center console, and we'll simply do that by pulling the lever up here, lifting the front of the seat, pulling it forward, assuming you've all done that if you're looking to attempt this repair, and then pull the center console off. Now we are on to the driver's side of the machine here. Your belt cover is here. We're going to remove, I believe it's 11 bolts around the outside, and there's also a bolt here and here on the front cover. These are all 10mm bolts, so we will remove those, and this will allow this cover to come off. Okay, now once you have the bolts removed from the cover, it is kind of a bear to get out of there. What we do is, if you remove your bolt, which is an 8mm, out of your coolant line, which is sitting on top of your frame here, remove that bolt, push your coolant tube on the inside of that tab and down. That way you do not have to unhook any hose clamps, and then your cover conveniently should fall down in and come out that side. So next we will remove the cage off of the clutch, which inside of here, and each one of these braces, there will be a 10mm bolt inside. There's two down below, one on each bottom corner and one on each top corner here. We'll remove those next. Alright, now that the bolts have been removed from the four braces, you can go ahead and grab a rubber mallet, tap on that cover, and simply remove that of the clutch housing area. Okay, so next we will be removing the main nut on the primary and secondary. When you remove your primary clutch, it's best to hold your thumb and keep this cam plate, I should say, which is inside of here, down flat. Otherwise you may cause an issue with your rollers inside underneath this cover to flip if that cam plate was to come up. So basically you want to hold your thumb against this, keeping pressure pushed that way against the back side of this as you remove it, to keep those rollers flat down in there. And then you'll be able to take your belt off. And next, before we actually pull the clutch, we found it best to remove your 10mm bolts here on your seat rest. You will have to take this plastic cover off here, which does require a little more work. A few screws in the front here of Phillips. But what that allows you to do is take this bolt out for this front member here and this plate off, which will definitely help in getting the secondary out. Sometimes you can get it out, sometimes you struggle. We're just going to go ahead and remove this off. Alright, so now we're going to remove the nut off the primary. Standard thread, and also get a shot here of the nut of the secondary. Okay, there's a washer on your primary, and again, just hold this squeezed in, slide the clutch. Sometimes the little slip shaft will come with it. That's what your belt rides on there. Okay. down. Then next you want to remove your belt, which can be a bear to get out of the cover. Which we have the clutch loose. We could slide it out a little bit. That's all right. Okay, and then we will remove the secondary. I may need to set this down to get it out, but just like so. And then your inner is splined on there and may need work back a little bit. I won't be able to do it one-handed, but very carefully do not gouge up any of the surfaces on the clutches, but work this back and forth with two hands. And looks like I can see right now that we may have a bearing issue. So okay, well, we'll get that removed, and then after that we will remove the bolts in the inner clutch cover, which you can see for here. There's a couple hidden in some spots. You'll find them down in here is one, and at the back here there should be one, and we'll remove that inner cover as well. Alright, so here we are again. We did remove the two bolts out of the cooling tube that blows back on the exhaust. On that inner cover, your boot down here will be hooked to that. Just simply loosen up the clamp there. That hooks right on the front of that inner cover there. There was 2, 4, I don't know, probably 10 bolts. Like I said, you had a couple hidden inside that cover here and down here. Bottom line, this got us into the internal wet clutch area. Next, we will need to remove the 8mm bolts surrounding the outside of this cover all the way around. This shaft will come out, and behind this seal, which we will not be taking out right now, there is a C-clip in there, snap ring I should say, that actually holds this in. So this will be part of this outside cover, and that's your drum. So we will remove that later, but at this point in time we'll take the 8mm bolts. Be prepared, if you haven't drained your oil yet, you will lose oil, so put a catch pan under there, which I will do. Remove these bolts and we'll see what's next. After removing all the bolts, remove the clutch cover housing, and inside you will see your one-way bearing. Note on the bearing there is a directional arrow. When your clutch housing is on, the shaft should turn counterclockwise and not clockwise. It's a good indication if your one-way bearing is good or bad. And inside the drum here, hard to tell on video, it is nice and smooth, but if you look at the pad material, which I'll take that off and show you, you should see grooves in the shoes on the clutch, and these are completely smooth, meaning there's no material left for it to grab. On this jam nut here, there is an indentation spot on that. Take a screwdriver, get that out of the groove there, take this nut off, and then we'll remove the clutch and start the reinstallation process. Now with the nut removed from the clutch, go ahead and pull the clutch off. And as you can see, that pad is totally gone, which is not good, which allows metal on the drum, and the rest of them are completely worn off. So we'll go ahead and get the new parts and start reassembling. Okay, so replace the drum in this housing. You will need a new seal, because we will pull this seal here and remove the snap ring inside. Now we've removed the seal, which as you can tell you will destroy it even with a proper seal puller, and remove the snap ring, which was down in there over top of the drum. You have just your drum cover and the bearing, and here we have brand new drum. This one has no discoloration. Has a new needle roller bearing down in there. So we'll go ahead and install this. Put the snap ring back on after it's through the cover and the new seal. Alright, so we've slid the cover over top of the drum. Does not require pressing. Put the snap ring back in, the new seal, and we'll go ahead and insert the one-way bearing, which again, on here, the arrow right there needs to face out. So when the bearing is inserted in there, you will not see the part numbers. Next, we'll open up. There we have a brand new clutch shoe. And as you can see, the pad material is raised and has ridges in it. So that can be seen there. So we'll go ahead and put this in the machine just like so. It's splined. We'll put the nut on there, get that tightened down, and then we'll go ahead and put our new gasket on there, which we have here. And we carry all these parts for you. They're in stock. And then we'll slip our clutch drum on there, and then we'll start back with the inner clutch cover. Alright, we're back down at the machine again here. We've gone ahead and installed the new wet clutch, or clutch shoe as they call it, and we've installed our nut. This has been tightened down with this pinged back down with a screwdriver and hammer. You may need to turn your motor over to get to this location, but do ensure that you did tap that back down with a hammer, flat blade, and screwdriver. We'll go ahead and reinstall our gasket. The dowels are in our cover here, or on the motor side I should say. They could possibly come out on the clutch cover. Ours are still there. We've gone ahead and cleaned this up, and all the motor oil was drained out, but cleaned this area up very well. The oil will run down into this lower section, which is not an oil encased area, just up here in the upper area. So do ensure that you blow that out down in there and get that all thoroughly cleaned out. Shoot a little brake clean or something in there. And again, just one last time, make sure that on your drum you do not see any markings. If you're unsure, I know some of these have come without an arrow on them. Just make sure when you install this, kind of work that on there, and just ensure that your shaft will turn counterclockwise and it will not turn clockwise. We'll go ahead and install these bolts and get back to you. Alright, so we've went ahead and reinstalled the inner clutch cover. All the bolts are installed there. We've went ahead and hooked the duct tube back up on the front, tightened the hose clamp, and also replaced the two bolts on the tube going to the rear section. Now we will go ahead and insert our secondary and primary clutch, get those tightened down. Do not forget, on this primary clutch, you need to install the fan inner first, which is splined onto your new drum. So that will slide down there. Work that all the way on. And then we'll go ahead with the clutch, tighten those up. Alright, now as we're putting this back together here, I just wanted to show you a quick thing. This is one of the bolts from the clutch cover. It's not really threaded far enough to do much good, but these two holes here, if you're ever stuck somewhere, just a quick note for changing a belt, you can run one of these bolts into your secondary there and thread that into the hole, which will open up your secondary sheave. As you can see, this belt, it is dropped down there, but the longer the thread on the bolt, it's always good to carry one on with you that's fully threaded. That'll allow you to get your belt on and off without having to really try and squeeze it between this cover. It'll give you a play to start at the top, spin your clutch. Again, you'll have to spin it counterclockwise, so remember to always start at the top, because your primary clutch, if this was fully assembled machine and you're changing the belt, will not spin the other direction. So we'll continue the installation here and check back in. Okay, now we've got the secondary and primary both installed on the machine. We're going to go ahead and install the basket over the primary clutch. Just go ahead and insert that in there. Rotate it. Tap that on that shaft. Go ahead and reinstall the bolts. That'll be the last step before we continue on to putting the outside cover on. We will do that next. Just ensure that when you're putting your outer clutch cover on, that you make sure the gasket, as you're trying to get the cover down in here and catching, make sure the gasket, before you bolt it on, you get it seated up against there. Just ensure it is totally on the clutch cover. It does actually affix to the cover on a little channel. So just ensure that and put your cover bolts on, and then we'll reinstall all of our seat brackets and paneling. Alright, so we've gone ahead and put the clutch cover on, ensured the gasket was seated all the way around before tightening that up. And again, all the bolts are on the outside. Don't forget your 2 bolts here in the front center. Return the coolant line back to its original position with the 8mm bolt. Then you'll be able to go ahead and reinstall your panel, the seat latch channel, the bolt going from here, which is a 13mm, back through into the seat bracket. Again, your 10mm in the front and there, and then your Phillips screws down the front and around the side. And then there is a screw down here, Phillips, that holds this panel on with a nut on the inside. And then you will add, if you've drained all the oil, which you are highly recommended to do, this is a great time. You've had clutch material in your engine, it needs a good flush. Go ahead and put the required amount of oil back in the machine, put a new oil filter on. My personal recommendation would be to run the machine, you know, depending on how much you run it during the day, but give it a good run. You know, maybe put 100, 200 miles on it, and give it another flush would be the best choice for the machine to ensure that you did flush out all that material, depending on how bad your clutch was. Again, you know, some of this was down to metal on metal, which is definitely not good, so you want to make sure that you have a fully clean oil tray and keep it fresh. So oil is inexpensive versus repairing a machine. So there you have it. If you have any questions, give us a call, 563-920-3412, kellymotorsports.com, or Facebook/Kelly Motorsports. Shoot us a message of any parts that you need, and we'll get a price to you and delivery. Thanks again.